Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are giving a couple of minutes for more attendees to join us, so we'll be starting soon. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining. Thanks. Good morning to everyone that's joining from the US. Good afternoon to a couple of attendees that are joining us from Europe. Thanks so much for being part of today's talk. I hope everyone's having a morning, afternoon coffee. Hopefully it's a Costa Rican coffee, so that will taste better. Um, and again, thanks so much for joining. Today, we're going to be talking about Costa Rica as a digital technologies hub, reimagining exponential technologies in a tropical paradise. During the next hour, we're going to present Costa Rica as a partner for companies to reach strategic markets and achieve business continuity, very well handled during the COVID times or during the pandemic, through diversification and capacity increase of their operations in the country. But before I present the speakers that are joining me today, let me tell you a little bit about CINDE. CINDE is a private non-for-profit agency that's in charge of attracting foreign direct investment or multinationals. So what that means is that we are a partner for multinationals that are looking at opening an operation in Costa Rica. We help during their benchmark process while they're making a decision considering different countries. We help during the establishment process, and we pretty much stay in touch, become a partner of these companies during their ongoing operations in Costa Rica. Our KPI is generation of employment. So our goal is not only to bring companies to the country, but also for the companies to grow their presence in Costa Rica and hopefully transfer more processes. My name is Paula Bogantes, and I've been with CINDE for about 9 years, and I am the lead for the digital technology sector. Now, with me, I have the pleasure to be joined by three great gentlemen, great speakers. My co-host, Rashid Sauma. Rashid is the director of Costa Rica for WeWork, and Rashid has more than 15 years of experience working with global enterprise companies. Rashid, again, as I said, is currently the director for WeWork in Costa Rica, and he's responsible for starting WeWork operations in the country. Next, we have today with us Ariel Vargas. Ariel is the director offshore and Costa Rica operations of Palo Alto Networks, a cybersecurity company with headquarters in Santa Clara, California. I've known I've known Ariel for many years. He has over 20 years of experience with the IT sector, and he used to be the site lead for VMware, and he has a vast experience of companies of this sector. And last, Max Esquivel. Max is the site lead of Costa Rica for Cloudera, a company that provides software platform for data engineering, data warehousing, machine learning, and analytics. Cloudera also has headquarters in Palo Alto, California. And as you can see, Max also has a vast experience being part of the digital technology sector in Costa Rica. Before we jump into talking about lots of interesting information that we're going to be sharing today, please, to all the attendees, don't forget to send your questions or to add your questions in your Q&A icon on your taskbar. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Costa Rica. Costa Rica is a small country, a little bit over 51,000 square meters. It's as small as or similar size to West Virginia or Denmark. We have a population of 5.1 million people. And out of those, 32% range between the ages of 15 and 34 years old. Our labor force last year was of 2.3 million people. Out of those, 40% were women. We have a universal healthcare system. 9.9% of the GDP goes towards the healthcare system. We have a public healthcare system. And education is free and mandatory since 1870. 8% of the GDP goes towards education, and Costa Rica stands as one of the countries with the highest public spending on education. We were also the first country in the world to constitutionally abolish the army. Total exports last year totaled $21 billion. Now, the IT sector. The digital technology sector includes over 70 multinational companies with operations in the country, offering services that range from tech support levels 1 and 2 to providing services on software development, cloud, cybersecurity, big data, etc. Now, the services of the IT have been growing consistently for the past years, 7% in 1 year, even during COVID times. 65% of the IT companies that have multinational companies that have operations in the country maintain a positive outlook during the pandemic. We have, for the past year, this sector alone has generated over 10,000 new jobs. And as you can see, our exports have been growing during the past few years. Now, we're going to discuss a number of reasons as to why multinationals choose to open operations in Costa Rica. But one of the variables that weigh heavily on the decision is the free trade zone regime. The free trade zone provides incentives on tax exemptions on income, export, import, and other duties. Several business parks under the regime are located around the country's major metro areas. And some tenants include companies of the likes of Microsoft, Akamai, Amazon, IBM, Accenture, Intel, HPE, just to name a few of companies that are providing services from Costa Rica. We also have companies from the life science sector and companies from manufacturing and food industry. Now, these companies have operations that range anywhere between 100 employees to 10,000 employees, which is the case of Amazon, and growing. Costa Rica's triple bottom line value proposition to reach sustainable productivity and invest with purpose is based on 3 aspects: people, prosperity, and planet. And we're going to talk about these 3. So let's jump into people. As mentioned earlier, Costa Rica has a stable democracy and a strong commitment to education. ingredients that have provided the country in a new area for high-tech investment. The digital technology labor force annual growth rate is of 17%. The country graduated last year a little shy to 14,000 STEM students. And out of those, almost 50% are women. Costa Rica also ranks second in Latin America in the English Proficiency Index. Services offered in English represent more than 79% in 3 of the top 5 processes, which are customer service, tech support, and software development. But companies can also find a multilingual workforce. We have people here that are fluent in Portuguese, French, German, Mandarin, and many other languages. The country also has an ongoing commitment towards talent building and workforce stability, retooling, and reskilling. We currently have programs which include boot camps, specialized training programs, certifications, and clearly collaborations with the government and companies. Costa Rica's highly qualified human talent, I'm going to say, is perhaps one of the main reasons as to why companies choose the country to establish operations. Now, Ariel, with your 20 plus years of experience of being part of the IT sector, what would you say are important differentiating factors of Costa Rica's talent?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Paula. And first of all, I want to just thank everybody for joining this coffee talk. And I hope that you will have several questions for us in the Q&A section. I think that it's very important that Costa Rica has gone in the last 25 years, in the last 3 decades, growing this technology industry that we call the services industry, right? And the reality is that one of the things when I interact with different people in different companies, they actually say, well, you're Costa Rican. But at the same time, I think that from a business perspective, the talent that we have in Costa Rica, it's something that has been developed, as Palo was mentioning. The educational system has been very powerful in regards to bringing different types of skills from a technology perspective. But there is also a certain characteristic of the talent in Costa Rica, which is the appetite for learning, right? I had an experience of, we had in my former company, we had a VP, a senior VP that came to Costa Rica and actually had interviews of different people. And he actually looked at me and said, Ariel, it's interesting that people do not hesitate to be able to look directly into my eye and tell me what are the things that could change or that we could improve. And that actually just proved the fact of being able to challenge the status quo, how to be able to actually just really make a difference. Just if we have a process and we have 1, 2, 3, why don't we do 2.5, right? And I think that's a key characteristic, right? We actually have a very strong set of talent and skills. Just to give you an example, the industry in Costa Rica in the last 25 years has evolved from initially kind of an outsourcing manufacturing type of industry, then actually developed into what we have today, more of the financial services and business process outsourcing services, and different types of roles that actually play a strategic role from Costa Rica. Just to give you an example, back in 2003, we have several companies that established, some of the biggest companies like HP and IBM. And we started identifying that there were people that could actually play that specific role from Costa Rica that could actually manage roles either in a regional perspective or in a global perspective. As an example, some companies actually today have some of the global process owners of different roles for different companies actually sitting in Costa Rica today to be able to really challenge how to be able to improve those processes globally or at a regional level as well. And nowadays, in the last decade, I think that the industry has evolved to be able to start looking into what the world is doing today, which is some of the advanced analytics, some of the research and development, some of the innovation specifically, to the point that today we do have a very strong innovation sector, specifically in different companies that are really taking the level of how to be able to really create new things, right? Being able to actually just drive that creativity and innovation moving forward. So the reason why several companies, Palo Alto Networks, VMware, Microsoft, Amazon, different companies are today in this ecosystem, right? Trying to develop new ways of actually expanding those areas, right, of improvement. I honestly, I am a true believer that companies, any place in the world, they need to be global companies, right? And global companies is really identifying where to actually just place your resources. And every country, if you define a country like a person, every country has its own personality, right? So we do have India, and we have people in Europe, right, that actually play this role either in Ireland, and many companies are located in England or in Spain and so on. And then you have also Latin America that bring that, in the case of Costa Rica, the Pura Vida factor into place, right? But the reality is that Costa Rica specifically, and the talent will actually just, as I mentioned, will actually challenge that status quo. We'll be able to find ways on how to be able to improve processes, how to move the bar up.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting what you said about every country has its own personality, because one of the things that companies tell us frequently is the cultural affinity that they find in Costa Rica with Costa Ricans, especially when servicing the United States. Rashid or Max, do you want to comment about this?
Sure. I'd love to add some comments, and thank you everybody for joining us today. So for me, the experience with Cloudera is relatively recent. So we've been operating in the Costa Rican market for a little over a year, and the big question for us was basically, well, there were two very big questions for Cloudera to make a decision to come to Costa Rica. One was the level of technological understanding that the Costa Rican workforce offers. What we do at Cloudera is relatively complex, and we were not looking for low-level support personnel. We were looking for very high-level people. And then the second question was, how well is our support staff in Costa Rica going to work with our enterprise-grade customers in the United States primarily? And this is important for Cloudera because most of you may not know this, but Cloudera works on the basis of an open source software platform. So we don't sell our software. What we do sell is our services and our knowledge. And that level of cultural affinity and the ability to work well with US enterprise grade customers is really our product. When we started exploring Costa Rica, we found that there was no previous experience in big data software operations. So we work primarily with Hadoop, which may not be familiar to most people, and there were no people in Costa Rica that knew Hadoop. But we were able to connect with a very strong stream of professionals in the support sector that had the basis to learn and very quickly ramp up. Not only that, but also, definitely display very, very strong language skills and very strong affinity to the US culture, which is exactly what we were looking for. I'm very happy to say that a little over a year after we started operations in Costa Rica, we've grown at about twice the rate that we expected. And then additionally, to our very pleasant surprise, we have been finding professionals that have been added to our operations in Costa Rica in different departments beyond support. So we're now working with exceptionally talented data analysts and data engineers, and expanding our operations into other activities of the company. And to reinforce a lot what Ariel was saying, we find that the workforce here is very willing and eager to learn. They're willing to put in the effort, learn quickly, and they can apply those teachings and learnings very, very effectively to the market. And we're also finding that there is significant interest in process improvement and innovating. So in the brief year that Cloudera has been operating in Costa Rica, we've already initiated 2 or 3 worldwide programs for our company that have changed the way we do things for the better. So definitely finding the right talent and a very strong cultural affinity to our primary market that we serve from Costa Rica.
And I just want to add, Max, because I think that you're right on point. One of the things that it's quite interesting is that in my experience in former companies, we started with a couple processes, right? So we started with processes that were supporting sales at one point. But the reality is that a lot of companies have been able to find the opportunity to be able to expand in different areas, right? And to be very honest with you, there are several companies today in the market that are actually practically running every single one of the different organizations out of Costa Rica, and they have representation of those organizations here, right? And you'll be able to find the wide variety of names of companies that you'll be able to actually find that talent. Either if you have finance requirements, or if you're looking for marketing digital technologies specifically, or if you're looking for kind of a legal hub, or if you're looking for an HR hub, there are certain examples of companies that are actually providing today, for example, the support of talent acquisition out of Costa Rica for different regions, not only the Americas region, but also for other countries as well. And I think that is a significant opportunity of talent, the variety of appetite that exists in regards to learn about different areas, right? And as Max actually said as well, and also Palo, your question, I think that we've been able to actually just start interacting with different regions, not only the Americas, but also EMEA and the Japan, the Asian Pacific region specifically. And I think that it's a matter of being able to really adapt to that strategic mindset and how to be able to really look for ways of building that alignment in this case. And one of the things that I have seen from the talent in Costa Rica is that building simplicity, right? Starting from the top, starting from a very strategic view, kind of the whole perspective, and how to be able to actually just go down to a little bit more tactical. And those are the things that in the teams that I have worked with in the past, and today, I think that it's one of the things that we really look for into like expanding for the company.
One other thing that I wanted to add, for us at Cloudera, so Cloudera is a very matrix organization, meaning that the operations of Costa Rica don't just impact our Costa Rican functions. Our staff in Costa Rica interacts with and works closely with people from all over the world. So we have, and this is important to mention because we have been able to find very, very able management staff that is helping us manage teams that are international and spread across the globe. So we have Costa Rican teams or Costa Rican managers managing support groups that are composed of people in Costa Rica, in the United States, in Asia, and in India, particularly. Some in Europe as well. So the impact of the Costa Rican staff has been very, very smooth and very easy to integrate into a worldwide operation. So the focus is not just for the Costa Rica operation, but integration into a worldwide operation. And that has been very smooth and very easy and very successful. And we expect to continue to grow at a very accelerated rate for the next few years.
Yes, thank you both. I think that this is something that I always say to investors to take into consideration when analyzing Costa Rica is everything that you said, especially the fact that Costa Ricans, we know that education is key, and we have this thirst to learn something new every day. Our curiosity is always, asking us or having us learn something new. So from my experience dealing with companies, multinational companies, this is, again, perhaps one of the key aspects that they like about Costa Rica, and one of the reasons as to why they come and grow, that desire, that thirst for knowledge that Costa Ricans have. So thank you both very much. Yeah, Ariel, you're going to say something else?
Yeah, I was going to say that it's exactly that, and that desire for knowledge is the impact to the learning curve. And I completely agree, because a lot of the comments that I normally receive from different managers, people managers in the different companies, is about the fact that that appetite for learning reduces the learning curve, specifically because people are really always asking questions, and people are not afraid to ask questions regardless of who they're talking to in the company. They're not afraid to be able to say, hey, why is this going on? Why is this like this? I really want to understand it. And that is kind of the key component for innovation. It's kind of a basic component. It's being able to really ask yourself why, in order to be able to actually just keep moving the bar up, right? So I think that's certainly something that I've seen and I've heard from different companies about the Costa Rican factor specifically.
Sorry, I was
And
muted. Go on, Max.
Oh, thank you, Pau. One last comment. For us, building a new office over the past year, particularly 2020, right? It's been a severe challenge to build an office and develop a culture that is finally attuned to our culture, to our corporate culture. During a year where the pandemic came on, and then all of a sudden everybody's working from home, and for us it's been a real challenge. And I want to mention this because we have found a tremendous willingness from our Costa Rica people to just adjust and do what's needed to be done. We have really not felt major difficulties or any obstacles or difficulties in terms of being able to develop a new operation in Costa Rica and grow it at twice the rate that we expected, despite the fact that we're not going to a central office. We're mostly working from home. We're now planning to return to our space, but people adjusted very, very well. People continue to perform at an exceptionally high level, and people continue to learn and engage and collaborate in an excellent way. So I think that is important also to mention, that despite the challenges presented by the current world situation and the pandemic, Costa Ricans have been able to adjust very effectively and very quickly, and have made it successful.
I agree.
We're a very social, connected network, right? And to be very honest with you, when something like COVID comes in, we have a lot of people trying to find new ways of being able to bring the people together, right? So I completely agree with that comment. It's even though that this is affecting the entire world, I think that the network in Costa Rica has been able to find new solutions on how to just build that connection across.
Right.
I agree. And on that note, go ahead.
Sorry, Paula. Just to add on that point, I just wanted to say that adding on Max and Ariel's last point, that no doubt that for Costa Rica, of course, the pandemic has been very tough, but we had to rethink some strategies and take some hard decisions with our companies and our businesses. But it has also accelerated, I would say, some processes that we needed. And for Costa Rica, it has been kind of different, because it has, I would say, sparked the creativity in our teams, looking for better and more efficient ways to do things. We have also learned, I believe, to be as a society and a community together. And we've seen a world every day more connected that has accelerated, of course, all that technology.
Thank you. I agree. I think during harsh times or during crisis, we're forced to be creative, and we're proven that Costa Ricans, can do that. But on that note, I would like to jump on prosperity, talk a little bit about prosperity. Costa Rica hosts 16 of the top 100 tech companies in the world, delivering value-added processes such as cloud, cybersecurity, virtual reality, augmented reality, RPA, big data, and also creative industries such as game development, digital technologies, UX, UI, and over 100 business processes, providing end-to-end technology solutions. Also, Costa Rica is the only Central American country with a free trade agreement with China, and maintains 14 free trade agreements that provide access to 57 global trade partners, which include the US, Canada, and the EU. Another advantage is Costa Rica's strategic location. We have similar time zones to the US. We don't do time savings. So depending on the time zone of the US, we can either be 1 hour behind or 2 hours behind the East Coast. I mentioned earlier the free trade zone regime, and also our proven track record, where we have now over 300 multinational companies with operations in Costa Rica. The country was named first among high-tech exporters in Latin America of industrial products by the World Bank, and as a top choice for establishing a global business service center in Latin America by the Hackett Group. Max, I'm going to go back to you. Why is Costa Rica's location a strategic hub for nearshoring? And what about fostering the follow the sun strategy to boost the client-centric solution?
So, so thank you for the question, and this is actually quite interesting for Cloudera, and has been very decisive in our decision to come to Costa Rica. So as mentioned before, Cloudera does sell, our knowledge and our support is really what we provide our customers. We do have a follow the sun support model, and we support customers from all over the world. The decision to come to Costa Rica happened, and Paula, you might remember this, it was a little bit difficult and convoluted because we acquired an office in Chile very early on, and during the process of deciding to come to Costa Rica. And after further analyzing, we decided that Costa Rica represented a series of advantages that Chile did not offer, particularly for our US customers. Although we maintain our Chile office and it is also growing. What we have done with Costa Rica is, number one, it's much more nearer shore to our enterprise customers in the US. So it's easier for Costa Ricans to interact with that market. We are, if we want to call it something, central time or mountain time, which kind of puts us in the middle of all the time zones that are required to serve the United States. So that has also been a significant factor. Language, so numeracy and literacy have been key as well. So language skills are very important. And certainly, cost savings. For us in Costa Rica, the cost of operations in Costa Rica represent, a fraction, a significantly small fraction of what the cost is in California. And the important thing here is that despite the lower cost, our teams in Costa Rica are delivering world-class performance, right? So our CSAT scores, for example, our customer satisfaction scores from Costa Rica and our productivity scores or metrics from Costa Rica are among the highest in the company, which means, it doesn't have to cost a lot to be just as good or even better. There is, so Costa Rica has been delivering on the promise, not only in terms of the quality of the talent and the quality of the work, but also in terms of the availability of the talent and the possibility to grow. For us, the nearshore decision was key. The Chile office is a great complement to us. It's more oriented towards the Eastern time zones, and they work some hours for European customers and some hours for Eastern customers, and certainly serve all our South American customers from Chile. But yeah, for us, the decision to come to Costa Rica was entirely about being nearshore, was entirely about customer affinity, and entirely about cost. And mind you, we do have offices in India, in multiple locations in India and other parts of the world. And we understand that Costa Rica is not necessarily the cheapest place to be. But the difference in cost is well compensated by the fact that Costa Rica is near shore to our target market, and that the quality of the talent is extremely high.
And Paula, I will have to agree with Max is saying, and I think that it's kind of the same type of scenario that we have for Palo Alto Networks as well. We started having conversations at some point and being able to really identify the right location. And I think that when a company actually just takes a step to start looking for other locations in the world to become a global company, there is no question that there is a requirement for you to be able to be located in the different regions, right? So now the big question is, Palo Alto Networks is a US-based company, but at the same time is how to be able to actually really service with a nearshore, with a close option that it will be available. But at the same time, I always joke that my mother said, don't jump up and down because you're going to wake up somebody in China. Probably she's not right. We're going to wake up somebody in India, because I'm pretty sure that if you actually drill a hole here in Costa Rica, you will come out somewhere in India. And the reality is it's a proper handshake, I think, because it's we're talking about just 11.5 hours difference, right? And a lot of companies have identified being able to actually just build different sites, different locations And having that follow the sun mentality, right? Not to put all the eggs in one basket and find ways on how to be able to balance that out is really ideal. Now, there are several reasons why Costa Rica, right? So eventually one of them is strategic location, right? Within the Americas, but also becoming kind of a hub for Latin America, being able to actually just have ways of having the proper infrastructure demonstrated either with customer briefing centers, with data centers, with labs that could be placed here to be able to bring the different customers to the region and be able to actually just, once again, understand the market specifically. But at the same time, I think that it's, if you are about to actually adopt and move to a different location, I think the adoption of working with a new site, with offshoring specifically, it was one of the reasons as well that Palo was actually decided upon. The other one, as being mentioned, is of course the talent, and certainly the English level, right? Being able to provide in different languages, services in different languages, the passion, the learning curve, and all the things that we mentioned in the past question, right? But at the same time, also the cost savings and the strategic benefits, right? You mentioned the free trade zone as one of the components, and the reality is that a lot of these companies that are today in this industry are basically taking advantage of this free trade zone as an opportunity for us to be able to actually just generate more jobs, right? And being able to actually bring more things to the country, right? Costa Rica also plays within the market. It's kind of a small Silicon Valley, specifically the variety of companies. And one of the things that it's on the table right now is how do these companies, even in Costa Rica, could start generating more partnership, right, to be able to actually develop business, right? Not only from the market of Latin America, but at the same time for the region of Americas, or in some cases from a global perspective, right? How to be able to do that. There's stability in regards to political stability as well, in regards to education, in regards to other aspects that eventually today are here to be able to provide good advantages for companies as well.
How about, thank you both very much. How about when we're talking about cost, one important aspect that companies focus on, that especially the ones that are very cost sensitive, is the establishment process. How about the establishment process in Costa Rica?
So I'll speak to that as well. So before I joined a more corporate environment, I operated in Costa Rica as an entrepreneur, also in technology for a long time. So I have a long entrepreneurial experience in Costa Rica. Setting up in Costa Rica was painless. It's extremely simple to start operations in Costa Rica. And if you partner with groups locally that can help you, like Cinde, or I am sure WeWork, it's extremely simple to start operations and start a process. It's not expensive to do that. It's actually quite cheap. And to add to the startup and to the ease of establishment, one important thing that was critical for Cloudera is that Costa Rican labor legislation is flexible and simple. It is very fair, but it also allows us to plan, especially for our support operations. It allows us to plan flexible shifting, and we do not work 24/7 in Costa Rica. Like I mentioned before, we actually operate on a follow the sun model, but we have shifts that operate Tuesday through Saturday, or Sunday through Thursday, and we can cover weekends without additional cost. So these are normal work shifts. They don't really get overtime for that weekend work. They actually get, they're 2 days a week off. So there's a lot of flexibility in Costa Rican labor legislation that will allow you to operate at a very easy to predict and previously known cost. That is not difficult to set up. One of the challenges that Cloudera had seen in other locations in the world was labor legislation. For example, because our operation is mostly support, we actually had difficulties in some European countries and some Asian countries where labor legislation makes it expensive to have somebody, for example, on call, not necessarily working, just being on call with a beeper, and you're paying their salary. Costa Rica does not necessarily contemplate that. It simplifies things quite a bit. And again, the legislation is very fair to the employee, but it's very flexible to the employer. And in our mind, it's a big advantage.
I always have a saying that says, think big even when you're small. And you did mention that Costa Rica is a small country, but it's not necessarily in regards to how we connect. One of the things that I have seen specifically is the very close environment that exists, the ecosystem of government, media, industry, right, academia. It's a very well-connected environment. And I do agree with Max. I think that institutions, and I'm not saying this because of Cindy is right now on the call, but the reality is that the process is easy because you have always someone that will extend the hand and help you out and help you navigate through the process. And I think that's one of the hardest parts of really setting up a company. It was interesting because from a Palo Alto Networks perspective, when we set up the company, I was questioned by the different teams how come it was so easy to be able to actually just drive through the process. And a lot of times it's because you always actually have somebody that will be able to guide you through the process. There is a mentality right now from a country perspective to be able to move towards the digital world, right? And you have, of course, digital signatures and you have digital processes that are being enabled today. It does not necessarily mean that everything is digital today, but it's actually moving towards that direction, right? And it makes it easy to be able to really, once again, have that connection. One of the things I do recommend companies is to be able to have initially a local resource that will also help you connect with the different companies and the different institutions that understands that market specifically, because it will be easy to do so. And in a matter of weeks, you'll be able to actually just have a fully set up company in Costa Rica that will be able to actually be 100% compliant. And I think that that's one of the key components as well, that the different institutions, different people will help you navigate to be compliant as a company, right? To ensure that you are covered in every aspect and you don't get any surprises around the corner specifically. So I've been working once again for more than 25 years, and my experience has been always positive in regards to how companies really connect with even academia, media, government, and industry. It's amazing.
Just for me here, complementing what Ariel and Max just said, it's interesting to see a little bit the real estate part of it and how we can be that solution for most of these companies. So I just want to explain a little bit here how our model is different from different models we have seen all around the world. So especially during these times of uncertainty, I would like to explain that basically our model reduces the complexity a company needs to operate and manage an office. That includes everything we know, like as electricity, water, IT, security. We grab all that, let's say, and we manage it in a single membership service. So companies can basically focus behind what they need, that is productivity. So that's one of our key value offerings in WeWork. We see it as a great option for enterprise companies. And it's because, as Max was saying, we are very flexible regarding space. Normally in a traditional model, let's say, you need to think about that space you rent for an X amount of time, and doesn't matter what happens, that's the space you will have. Well, with WeWork, you can play a little bit with that, and you can grow or decrease as much as you need without a long time compromise. And that, I believe, is very valuable, especially in these times of uncertainty, that we can help companies.
I agree. I think WeWork now has become, I mean, you've always been a great partner for us, but especially for the digital technology. And I'm going to say, especially now, we've seen this year alone how you guys have become a great solution for companies that are looking at, you know, their goal is to set up an operation and not necessarily invest money on a building and, you know, improvements to the building and whatnot. So I agree. And thank you all for all the comments on prosperity.
And Paula, and I think just to be able to add what Rashid said, especially with COVID today, companies are really trying to identify new ways of really working and how to be able to really create collaborative environments specifically, right? And as WeWork mentioned, Rashid mentioned about WeWork, I think that it's really important for us to be able to really start thinking about how to redefine in this flex work, right? Specifically, how to be able to really finding new ways of setting up in different countries. And Costa Rica, I think that it's already thinking about new ways, and WeWork specifically is one of the companies that are really driving this.
I agree. And I will add, we companies and we humans should also start thinking more on the planet. And that takes me to the third topic that I wanted to discuss today. As every Costa Rican that has joined us today knows that we're very proud when it comes to Costa Rica and our biodiversity and how we're seen worldwide as a green country. So when it comes to investing with purpose, Costa Rica is your strategic ally to generate impact. Sustainability has been Costa Rica's roadmap for over 60 years. And one funny aspect or fact that I like to mention about Costa Rica is that Costa Rica accounts for only 0.03% of the Earth's surface. We have only a little over 51,000 square kilometers, but we have 6% of the world's biodiversity. So a very small, packed country with a lot of biodiversity. Also, 52% of our national territory is covered by forest. We have the National Plan for Carbon Neutrality by 2050. You can see here we have 99% of the electricity comes from renewable sources, and actually in 2018, we were able to run 300 days of clean energy. We were also the world's first champion of the earth by United Nations last year. And also the first country, we've been ranked as the first country in the world in the 2009 Happy Planet Index. Another thing important for Costa Rica, as I said, is not only the sustainability of the country, but also that mix that we do or that we have when it comes to Costa Rican lifestyle, where work is very important, but also we are lucky enough to live in a country where you are an hour and a half away from a great beach or an hour and a half away from an active volcano. So I'm gonna just, ask this question openly, gentlemen. Can you tell us more about diversity and inclusion programs that your company implements in your Costa Rican operations?
I think you talk about one of the specific areas that is a passion for me as well. And I think that the reality is not just the sustainability, right? So, and I think this is something that the entire world is really looking forward to start implementing new ways of doing strategies for sustainability. But at the same time, is inclusion and diversity. And I think that many companies are now looking into how to be able to actually just create environments within the companies to be able to actually just drive this. And to be very honest with you, one of the key factors that we have, for example, in Palo Alto Networks is it's not just about learning, but it's also about really building an environment in which we are diverse and inclusive, right? It's about living this perspective, right? Because the reality is that, just to give you an example, in one of the activities I did in the past, the team actually put together, so we had a soccer game of people that were blind, right? And one of the things that we did is that we had all our employees that were actually playing against this team, this national soccer team, were blindfolded, right? And it was an experience that it really opened our eyes to what it really means specifically. And I think that it's really important for us to be able to implement new ways of doing this, right? How to be able to really work with people today, especially COVID, has really raised the question about how to be able to do some of these programs. We actually said many times before, we had a chance to be able to put a group of people together and be able to go out and start participating in different activities and being able to actually just have a lot of these programs running, right? But today we had to ask ourselves the question, how do we reach people to be able to actually just extend the hand and help out? So I think that we are the entire world, we are right now really looking for on new ideas on how to do this. And really our companies are really looking for establishing strong programs, volunteer programs that eventually will be able to drive this type of change.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Rashid. So
go ahead. Sorry. All right. Yeah. For me, an inclusive workspace, it's a place where we value differences and where we understand that the differences creates value by itself. For WeWork, I know it's very important. We have three main topics. One is flexibility. The other one is technology and community. Maybe community comes in here in a strong way, because as a company, one of our core values is to strive to be better together. So we have always believed that we are better together with our differences. We must operate with a shared purpose to constantly improve and grow to become better individuals. So as a team, as a company, and in the same way, I would say almost 10 years ago, we believed in that power of community. And just community by definition is that group of people living in the same place or sharing the same building for our case. So with some particular characteristics that in common, but most importantly, lots of differences. And that has a huge value for us, not only internally for our employees, but also for our community in our building, that it's all the companies that are with us. Go ahead, Max.
Yeah, so from a Cloudera perspective, sustainability is certainly a factor and something that for our company, is important for a company, and particularly being in Silicon Valley and suffering through all these fires and all these other problems, has been very eye-opening, not only to our company but to everyone, not only to our company headquarters in California but to everybody in the company worldwide. So this in itself is a big incentive for being in Costa Rica and understanding that this country is committed to sustainability and committed to being green. And then additionally, in terms of diversity, equality, and inclusion, I'm actually quite proud to say that Cloudera has instituted a C-level position in the company to run specifically diversity, equality, and inclusion. So Cloudera now has a chief diversity, equality, and inclusion officer as part of its C-level suite, and is structuring a complete department. And the way we're approaching diversity, equality, and inclusion is we take it as a fact of life. The expectation is that it is there, that we don't really have to make special allowances for it. It's assumed. And currently the campaign is more about being aware of identifying situations or specific circumstances where it is not present, and fixing it. So for us, it's key. We understand very well, and you both, Ariel and Rashid, mentioned this, and certainly agree. We understand very well that diversity is the key to innovation, is the key to more and better ideas and different points of view, and we experience this at Cloudera every day. So for us in Costa Rica, it's one of our main targets. It's our recruiting teams are instructed to talk and interview anyone. It doesn't matter who they are or where they come from. And our small team in Costa Rica is already showing quite a significant level of diversity, from the gender side, from the color side. So, and the fact that we're working remotely for most of the time really makes it very transparent. So for us, it's a key element. We find good talent across different ethnic groups and across different genders. So for us, it's a fact of life, and we want to expand it and continue to push it. So Costa Rica is a great place to actually be able to do that.
I was actually going to go back to you, Ariel. I've heard you mention this a couple of times, the work-life balance that you can achieve in Costa Rica.
And I think that is a topic that all the different companies need to really bring to the table, especially nowadays that our offices are home, right? And how to be able to really just put the line there and be able to say, okay, I'm going to stop because right now I'm sitting in my room or in my living room or in my office or whatever I am, right? And start actually concentrating with my family. And work-life balance has become a topic on how to be able to manage the new normal, right? How to be able to manage now the way that people are really looking to have that flexibility. And one of the things that Palo Alto Networks is doing, and just created a specific connection with other companies, called about flex work, which is how to be able to build not only the term of balance between your life and work, but also about flex learn, flex benefits, right? How to be able to actually have that flexibility, flex space. What are the things that we need in order to be able to be ready to take this forward if we're working either from home or we're working from the office? What are the actual, because certain priorities actually went up to the to the list in regards to what are the things that we need, right? So I think that it's one of the key components we have to look into. I was also going to add something that Max said, and I agree with him. I think that inclusion and diversity are at the top of the list as well in regards to make a new Palo Alto Networks. I like one of the items that in the industry is named as diversity and inclusion, but actually Palo Alto Networks said, okay, no, we have to first be inclusive and then diverse, right? Because the reality is that we need to make sure that inclusion and diversity crosses all the different boundaries of the interaction with people, right? It's not just about what we believe and who we are, where we come from. It's about how we interact with each other. And some of these different questions are across even a standard meeting, a standard interview, a standard presentation, right? And I was recently invited. Palo Alto Networks has basically what we call we call it networks, right? Which is something that comes directly from the employees, from the heart of the employees to create. And we have a Latin network, and it's amazing that our executive team is actually getting involved into the most common situations that happen from an inclusion and diversity, right? And I was recently invited to a meeting in which they were talking about what are the things that we can do better to be able to improve from a Latin community, the interaction we have as a company, and inclusion and diversity as a topic, right? So I love this idea, and I wish that more companies will be able to take this flex work, this new way of normal, right, to the table and start having conversations about what are the things we can do to our employee base, right?
Here briefly, I just would like to jump in because Ariel just mentioned a big word for us in WeWork, that it's flexibility. So basically, after months of navigating in this crisis, I think there's no collective consensus about the future of work. What we can see so far about the future is that it has to be flexible, including offices and remote work options in the different combinations that we can imagine. I have seen recently Gensler just released an article that says that almost 40% of employees miss their colleagues and miss to being connected. Also, I believe we have all, maybe, not sure if you know Simon Sinek, but maybe you know him. He has made some reflections about how humans need more that personal relationships to generate trust between themselves and solve some issues or problems you can see in an everyday work. So I do believe that WeWork gives that great balance between flexible workspace and those who need an office. Work from home, or even better in Costa Rica, I believe you can mix that experience with work from the beach or work from the volcano, or just have that nice life balance, as Ariel was saying, knowing you have a WeWork an hour and a half from one of the sites.
Yes, and I think this will, thank you, Rashid. And actually, this is a good intro to, let's move into the Q&A section, because we're getting very interesting questions asked. I think you said something that goes along the stability of, stability can be seen from the government, from telecommunications, and so on and so forth. So what about any of you guys want to comment about the stability of Costa Rica in the future?
So stability, once again, from a talent perspective, I think that this is one of the things that we have shared in regards to the educational system. So it continues to actually grow and continues to develop into different skills. So I think that the industry is significantly big right now with the representation of different companies, and continues to actually increase the pool of candidates, right? Not only from a language perspective, but at the same time from the technical skills perspective, functional skills perspective. So I think that Costa Rica is a stable company for growth and for looking for different requirements. It is known that there are certain things that worldwide are being developed because they're an issue worldwide, including advanced analytics and other aspects in this case. And I think that along with Cindy as well and the government, they're really taking an agenda to be able to actually just drive some of these topics forward in the next few years as well, right? So from talent stability, it's certainly a great opportunity. From an economic stability, I think that this free trade zone environment specifically has become a very important factor for many of these companies to actually be placed in Costa Rica. The reality is that it brings the possibility to be able to establish a company in country that will actually run at the similar cost of what it is in other locations, knowing that it's tax exempt for a lot of the requirements to be able to operate a company. It's certainly a great opportunity for the business. Political stability, I think that political or any other aspect of stability, I think that COVID has been a significant impact to every country in the world, right? So I think that nobody has the golden rule, nobody has the actual answer to every single thing today. But the reality is that the country is beginning to look for those dialogue with different sectors to find out how to be able to actually just drive improvements and how to be able to really adjust the country, which if you look at it, a country is just like a company, how to be able to actually just connect that company and be able to ensure that the finance department or the HR department, which is the social stability, the finance department, which is economic, how to be able to make sure that we drive those aspects forward, right? So I think that it's a small country, but as I said, it's very well connected. All the different sectors are somehow trying to participate and find new ways on how to be able to deliver solutions for this time that we're living.
Thank you, Ariel. We have another good question here, and I'm gonna let you gentlemen answer. It says, what will be the right network besides Cinde to start with for a small software company from Europe which would like to start a new business in Costa Rica?
So I'll be happy to start answering this question to Mr. Villeke. So my question, I'm going to answer with a reverse question. Why wouldn't you work with Cinde, right? Cinde's job is, or Cinde's mission is to attract foreign direct investment. They're a nonprofit organization, and they don't cost anything. That's their job. They're here to help you make those decisions. My personal experience with Cloudera was exceptionally good, and Cinde was instrumental in getting us not only the information that we needed to make that decision, but also in helping us supporting us in finding the right professionals to assist us in other areas as well. So they make it very painless. They have a lot of information that they can provide for you, and certainly would say, if you want to have a small startup or software development company in Costa Rica, Cinde can certainly get you started and pointed in the right direction. Besides that, I think I would suggest that, yes, you need to connect with a local person, but you can do that very efficiently through, for example, multinational organizations like Deloitte or Pete Marwick, and similar companies that can give you additional advice as to, day-to-day operations around payroll and stuff like that. But Cinde can also advise you on finding the right people to help. I would certainly suggest that starting with Cinde would be the best plan. And if that is not an option, then talk to them and have them point you in the right direction. They have a lot of names that they can help with.
Mark, I think that you also...
By the way, I see another question from you. Would really love to meet you in November when you're here. So just let us know.
I was going to actually say, Mark, I think that you don't have to wait until November for meetings, so we can connect this way. But at the same time, if November is the time frame, just feel free to be able to actually just contact us at any point. We'll give you our perspective. We'll let you know what are the do's and don'ts, what is the best way to be able to actually just set up a company in Costa Rica and start right away.
Thank you, gentlemen, and just a little infomercial. That's part of the services that we provide. So if any of the people that are joining us, if they would like to meet with Max or have a phone call with Max or Ariel or Rashid or any company, just let us know and we can set up those calls. We're getting a couple of questions regarding the startup ecosystem in Costa Rica. Any of you want to comment about that?
Sure. I think that this comes from John, and John, I think that it's a great opportunity to be able to actually just set up a company in Costa Rica. So as we mentioned, it's just a matter of being able to connect, in this case, as Max said, with Cinde and they will be able to guide you through the process. I think the ecosystem is that there's a lot of companies today. If you go into Cinde's page, you will be able to see the companies that started and the years that it started. So that means that there are some companies right now that are in that startup process that are really just looking for the talent and being able to do the sourcing. There's a lot of connection in the industry. So if you ever want to actually connect with other companies through Cinde, you'll be able to build that connection in order to be able to understand the ecosystem of finding talent, where you can actually just locate that talent specifically. I think that every company, and this is one of the advices that I always give, every company will have to start with talent from other companies, and that is. But at the same time, it's always as well, and that is one of the things that you also have an opportunity. You could actually.
Are you guys there? Did we lose Ariel?
Can you hear me?
We didn't hear your last point, Ariel. I think we lost you at the last 10 seconds.
Yes. Can you hear me now? Okay. So I was saying that in regards to talent, I also have the recommendation companies to start with. Of course, they need to start with talent from other companies, but at the same time, you also could have an opportunity to be able to develop talent and being able to actually bring someone from different locations of the world, from your corporate office or from other locations, and have that person here for a specific period of time in case you want to also look for that possibility as well, right? As I mentioned, there's a chance to be able to actually bring people from different parts of the world and develop in specific areas, either if it is also the functional mentality of your company or any other aspects as well, that will be an opportunity.
In that sense, Paul, and before we end, I just wanted to take the time to reinforce that you can consider for sure for Mark or John, you can consider WeWork as that strategic partner you need for that new adventure in this tropical paradise. We have more, as you may know, more than 800 buildings all around the world in more than 150 cities. So to have a hub in Costa Rica for sure would be very easy for you to connect with other parts of the world. We have the same quality standards that you can see in New York or in every part of Europe. So we can offer that flexibility, I believe, a startup needs to start any business and help you with that soft landing in Costa Rica.
Thank you. Yes, and we are still getting more questions, but I don't want to take, we've been over an hour. So what we're going to do is we will review all the Q&As that we've received and we will send an answer to that person. But before we leave, we want to show you a small video of Costa Rica, just so you leave with that excitement of coming to visit if you haven't done so.
Perhaps the perfect place does not exist. It may be just an idea crossing our minds as something stirs our emotions, approaching us in a moment of peace, arising when we connect with our essence. Perhaps the perfect place does not exist. But if it did, what would it be like?
L'endroit parfait est fait d'harmonie. La conviction de faire partie d'un ensemble bien plus grand que nous.
المكان المثالي مصنوع من التنوع، نهوض نسق من الأفكار والأحلام الجميلة والمعقدة.
Der perfekte Ort besteht aus Inspiration, dem Antrieb, unsere Gegenwart zu verstehen. die in der Hoffnung auf eine bessere Zukunft verwurzelt ist.
完美的地方是努力的，始终做到最好，为了自己，也为了我们身边的人。
El lugar perfecto está hecho de talento. Esa certeza sobre nuestra capacidad colectiva, reflejada en el éxito de cada uno.
We all know that the perfect place does not exist. It must be built. It is created by walking together and encouraging each other. It is achieved by the endless commitment to the welfare of all. The perfect place is to be made.
All right, thanks everyone for joining. I hope that during this hour, we were able to present Costa Rica as a key partner to reach strategic markets and achieve business continuity. We're going to be sending this presentation this coffee talk was recorded, so we'll be sending the link, and in that link, you're going to find my contact information if you're interested in learning more about investing in Costa Rica. Thank you all very much for joining. Thank you to all my wonderful speakers for taking the time to be part of this coffee talk. I hope everyone has a pura vida afternoon and weekend, and I hope to see you guys soon when we'll put together another coffee talk.
Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you, everybody, for joining.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye-bye.